Today I'm going to be writing reactions out. I'm going to give you the words and then we're going to have to write the formula from this. In order to be able to successfully do this, you're going to need some background knowledge on formula writing and naming ionic and covalent compounds. So if you don't know that, you'll want to go back and view those videos first before you get to this point, because you're going to need to know how to do that before we get here. So all it's doing is giving you names and telling you what to do with that information. So in this first one, sodium oxide combines with water to form sodium hydroxide. There's a few key words we want to look for. Combined or and, things like that are going to tell us that we are adding things together. And this with is also telling us that. So I'm going to have sodium hydroxide, and I'm going to need to figure out what that is. I'm going to need to figure out what water is. Hopefully I know that one. And then to form is telling me I'm making something new. So I need to fill in the blanks. So first thing I need to know is what sodium is. Sodium is Na. And then I have hydroxide. Hydroxide, not hydroxide, I have oxide, sorry. Sodium oxide, oxide's just water. Remember, for ionic compounds, we change the ending to "ide." So, I have oxygen and sodium bonded together. I'm going to need to know their oxidation numbers to bond them. Sodium's in group 1, so it's going to have an oxidation number of +1. Oxygen is in group 16, so it will be -2. And then I will crisscross. The 2 next to oxygen will come down next to sodium, and the 1 that was next to sodium would come down next to oxygen. So that's that one. Then I have water. You should know that water is H2O. So no crisscrossing involved there, because you should know that one. And then the last one, we're making sodium hydroxide. So sodium will be the same. Hydroxide is telling us we have a polyatomic ion. So we're going to go to our polyatomic ions list. Hydroxide is right here, OH-. And so that's what I will put there. Anytime I put 2 new elements or substances together, I have to crisscross the charges if it's an ionic bond. So I will crisscross. They are both 1. So in this case, it's just NaOH. And then you would go back and balance this equation. And that's it. So number 2, we'll do this one together as well. Zinc reacts with, that's telling me I have a plus sign, iron 3 chloride. So that means I have iron, and the charge on that iron is +3. It's not telling me that I have 3 irons, just the charge. Chloride is the same thing as chlorine, and that chlorine will have a -1 charge because it's in group 17. So I'm going to crisscross the charges. And I know to crisscross because I put 2 things together. So the 3 will come down here. The 1 would go down there. I don't have to write it. So that gives me zinc reacts with iron 3 chloride. Now I'm going to yield. So that means I'm going to make or produce. And zinc chloride plus iron is what I have to figure out. So I will have zinc. I will have chlorine or chloride. Zinc is a transition metal, so I would have to give you the charge. So it would actually say like zinc 1 chloride in there, which means the charge on zinc would be +1. Chlorine's always -1, so I will crisscross ZnCl plus iron. Any element by itself is just itself, unless it is diatomic. And iron is not. So that's all you have to write for that one. And then we would go back and balance. This one is pretty easy. Hydrogen plus oxygen makes water. A lot of you would think that is the correct equation. However, it is not. Because anytime you have an element by itself, you need to check and make sure it's not diatomic. The 7 diatomic elements that will never appear by themselves: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those 7 will never appear by themselves. So, since hydrogen is diatomic, it will get a little 2, and oxygen will get a little 2. It does not mean that those need to have 2's next to them after they have bonded, only if they're by themselves. We'll do one more example. And in this one we have sodium, and sodium is going to react with magnesium chloride. So we're going to need to figure out what that is. Magnesium and chlorine are going to be our 2 elements. Magnesium is in group 2, so it will get a +2 charge. And these are the oxidation numbers that you should have memorized. Chlorine's in group 17, -1. So I'm going to crisscross. The 2 from magnesium will come down next to chlorine, and the 1 that was next to chlorine would come down next to magnesium. Now I'm going to yield or make sodium chloride. That's one you probably already know, but it's sodium and chlorine, or NaCl. So to get that, I figured out the charges. Sodium's +1, chlorine's -1, and then I crisscrossed. Anytime I put 2 new elements together, I have to check their charges. And then this part plus magnesium, which is just Mg. I would check to see if magnesium is diatomic. It is not, so that is my equation.